Hello, students and parents. Welcome to our first AAI Empower tutorial. This tutorial is designed to give you a roadmap of all the various tools that are in Empower for both you and your students. We're just going to kind of go down the list and show you what all the features do, and then we'll wrap it up from there. So we're going to start up here. This is the plus delta feature. You can give feedback that goes directly to AAI from right here if you feel the need, and we can filter through that. So that's the feedback option. And we have your date track here. You can go back in time. Just as a case in point, if I want to go back to the first, you'll notice that there's some significant differences on the way this class looked last month versus the way that it looks today. So you can go back in time and see what has changed in the system and just get a really good feel for anything that's being added or changed or anything like that. So this is basically a time machine. Just keep that in mind. You want to keep it on the today's date as much as possible. The quick access ID, you can copy from an activity and dump it in there just for a quick case in point. Let's say that I have an activity like this one that I want to be able to access pretty frequently. You can get an ID for it, and then you can go directly to it. Just kind of jump in and out. So we don't use that very often, but it is there as a tool. Okay, let's jump over here to the, well, if I wasn't viewing this as me, you'd have two buttons up here. You'd have a communication button. It looks like a notification bell. And then you'd also have your account up here. Now, I don't have them because I'm using this as a test subject, but this one is how you keep track of any communication that's come your way. This can be in the form of feedback. This can be class messages, anything like that. And over here is where you would look at your profile picture and your account in general. Now that brings us to our groups screen, and you'll notice I called them groups and not classes. Some of these are probably classes, but you need to think of them like groups. Teachers organize students into groups and then provide instruction for them in those groups. So you would have things like the title. You would have things like the teacher or the instructor. You would have things like the communication tool where you could actually throw messages out to the entire class. Right? Messages for all, so on and so forth. You have a pacing tool. I'll get into that a little bit more later. You'll have your standard viewer tool. It's like a proficiency marker tool. I'll get into that just a little bit later as well. The class log, I think this is a very, very handy tool. If you click on that, you'll see all of the most recent activity for that particular class. So the teacher marked this one as missing for me just today. It was due last week. And then I didn't do so well on assignment 4. Got some great updates there. I can also go into the view all option here. Talk more about this in another video, but this gives you all the same information, but much more nuanced and detailed, as well as like what the goal score is, what standards I'm trying to achieve, if there's any feedback for me, so on and so forth. One thing that's worth pointing out, you'll notice that if I just hover over any of these icons, they will give you a description of what it is. So it'll tell you kind of what that feature does if there's an option to. So you won't have the student filter, that's a me only. You will have the create activity filter. You can use this to propose an activity to meet standards that is outside of the course curriculum. There's a target browser that I will talk more about in another video. A search icon, which allows students and guardians to search for content that has been shared. So you can go look for existing content that the teachers have shared, quizzes, articles, anything like that. My calendar feature is a handy feature. That shows you the breakdown of assign dates and due dates for all of the assignments, right? This assignment 4, for example, different components are due on different days. Looks like assignment 1 was assigned the 5th, assignment 2 was assigned the 30th. So it just lets you break up the due dates for all of your activities from the various classes. You'll also have another button up here that I don't have, which is called the Print Progress Report Viewer, or Print Progress Report Viewer, something like that. It's usually in between the calendar and the filter. That will allow you to do a grade check on your classes at any given time. I'll do another video on that, but that tool usually shows up right here as well. Okay, so there are additional features. So I'm going to go ahead and click this down. So you have some pacing options here. And this pacing tool is really the total amount of time. So let's say this course is supposed to last a year long. So it goes from August 14th to May 29th. So we expect students to be around 15% done at this point of the year, just based on simple time. This student is about 30% done. So I'm 30% done with this course. So I'm considered to be ahead of pace. That's all that is. Gives you a really quick snapshot of what's there. These items, the next up items, are items that the teacher will pin to your account. These activities are ones that you can pin, and I'll show you how to do that here in just a minute. And then these will show you if there are any missing activities for this particular class. And those populate usually automatically. So I'm just going to show you really quick what I mean. So let's say I want to pin that. You'll notice that the moment I pin it, it jumps up here. And also all of these, let me just, I can pin all of them if I want. Pin. And then I have the option to kind of go through them. All of these have icons attached, and that's something else to draw your attention to. These icons all mean something. So the starred means that it's scored and I did well on it. This means that it's scored, but I need to redo it, resubmit it. This means it's overdue, but I have some scores on it. That's why it doesn't show up over here. So I'm missing the assignment, but I have scores in for some of the standards. So maybe part of it was a class activity, part of it wasn't. Usually when this icon hits, it'll automatically populate over here, but this is kind of a weird scenario on this one. So all of those icons you can just hover over to find out exactly what they mean. The other really common one to see is the student desk, which means they have not submitted. They're working on it, basically. They haven't submitted any work for it. So again, you can pin it and unpin it to your homepage, and then teachers can pin and unpin things to the student's homepage. And then if they miss an assignment, it's marked as missing. It will also be here. Now you can also, like I did, drop the playlist browser down and take a look at any of the assignments in this format as well. You will notice, let me go back all the way here. You will notice that there are 2 playlists. One of them just has standards in it, right? And it has this AAI logo on it. This is, we use this for a reporting feature, just so the reports run accurately. I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. So this is not your instructional playlist. We call this a course playlist. So every art course has a similar set of standards that they're supposed to meet. But every art course is different in the way that they do it. So the first playlist usually is the one to look at, and they should all be organized this way. There's a big idea attached to it. You're welcome to go into it and look at those big ideas, see what standards are supposed to be met, what kind of playlist it is, so on and so forth. And then these just list the standards again. But this is where the work starts. So week 1, oh, there's an assignment there. Week 2, an assignment there. Week 3, week 4, so on and so forth. And this is usually attached to dates in the calendar. So week 1 technically should be August 17th through the 22nd. That should say that up there as well. So we are moving into, this is week 7. So we're plugging away into week 7. And that's a good way to find out like what I should be doing or what my students should be doing. You can also use this report viewer as well to get an idea of that as well. Okay, so a couple other things to notice. You can upload directly from the screen. You can leave messaging on this one to get teacher feedback and throw that onto there so the teacher can write you back. You can, I think as a teacher, I have the ability to remove it, but you guys are students, so you don't have that capacity. So, and then you also have the ability to, I'm going to dig into this a little bit, to see how you're doing on the course standards, just in kind of a snapshot view. So I have scores on 3 of the 7 standards. Looks like I didn't do very well on one of them, so I need to look at that one. Looks like I'm missing a part of one of them, so I need to look on that. Right? So assignment 2 is missing. But assignment 4 is below what I'm supposed to get, so I can actually click directly into it from there. I can also just get an overall view of each of the evidences and get a sense for how I'm doing on each of those. When we calculate your grade, we take these 3 and find the simple average. So in this case, it'd be like a 2 point, what is that going to be, 2.7? Oh no, probably not. Probably like a 2.4. So this would be like a 2.4 average, and then we round that to the nearest whole number. So we round it to a 2. This would be C work. And I'll show you what that looks like on the report viewer. So if you click on this button in between the My Calendar and My Filter, it will pull up a screen that looks a lot like this, that prints all of your contents and gives you an idea for how things are going. So again, it averages out your scores. This is a qualitative measure, but it also tells you how much of the course you've completed. In order to get grades at AAI, you need to complete your work in 25% sections. So this is an indication that you've completed 25% of the power standards and you're doing B level work on those power standards. So up here is just a quick look. Here's how well you're doing as far as quality. And then you look at the other side of the report to see, well, how are they really getting through the material? So we'll scroll through and show you an example. Here we have one that's way ahead as far as quantity, but not doing that great quality of work. So that's what you would see if you were to use that print or progress report feature. Okay, that concludes your brief tutorial. Feel free to pause and replay this as many times as necessary, but you should have a really good idea of the various tools that are located in Empower. And again, I'll go into all of these in greater detail in other videos.